Burkish, the pride of the NEFGC, the diamond in the rough.
Most people would tell you that it suits Burkish best to introduce him through his Urien play, or by using a list of the names of the players he's beaten in bracket. Here at BFD, we embellish our guests like royalty, so let me simply tell you that if you've ever watched or competed in high-level Street Fighter V in the northeast of the United States, there's a high chance that Burkish has been introduced to you already. He was likely introduced by commentators, because there are hardly any tournaments in New England without Burkish dominating the airtime on the stream station. I've already been the commentator to introduce Burkish to the stream audiences of Street Fighter V by discussing the discipline, flexibility, and consistent superiority of his Urien. But tonight, Beyond Frame Data gets the exclusive chance to go beyond the mirror frames of Burkish's Aegis Reflector and instead have Burkish reflect on himself within the frames of our cameras. I'm Monkey Business, and the young man in the mirror tonight is Nick Burkish Burke. Welcome back to Beyond Frame Data. Tonight, the pleasure and privilege is mine to introduce and interview Nick Burkish Burke.
Hello.
Hello, Nick.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it
Hi.
going? Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good. For me, it's going wonderfully, and it's going to continue to go wonderfully as I ask you all kinds of questions about your life in and out of the fighting game community, your experience at events, meeting people, hanging out, and building something in the community out of yourself. So I guess we start this interview where everything starts, the beginning. Think back as far as you can go and find for me what got you into fighting games. And if not what, then who?
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, we're going way back. So, I think I started playing fighting games when I was 13 years old.
13.
So, I mean, I can't really think of what got me into it, to be honest. Like, I literally just have this very distinct, two very distinct memories. One of just one day waking up and being like, I feel like playing Street Fighter. Like, I vaguely knew what Street Fighter was. I was like, that's the one with like Chun-Li and Ryu, right? I was just like, that's what I'm doing today. And like, I immediately went on YouTube and I looked up Street Fighter. I didn't know what the current one was. And that was when 4 was the current one. And so I looked up just the word Street Fighter, and the thing that popped up was Evo Grand Finals, Ricky Ortiz versus Daigo. And so I was watching that video and I just saw Rufus, because Ricky Ortiz is a Rufus player.
Yeah.
And I was like, this character is awesome. I saw him do, Ricky was doing the Ultra 2, which was the spin. You know what I mean?
Space Opera Symphony!
No, that's
Oh,
Ultra 1. That's Ultra
1.
1. It was
Okay.
Ultra 2, which was the giant spin, like the giant one, because it went through fireballs, because Daigo was playing Ryu.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I saw that and I was just like, this looks crazy. I want to try this. And so my second distinct memory was going to Blockbuster. See, this is how you know it was a long time ago.
You're 22 for reference.
Yeah.
How did you even have a Blockbuster when
It was one in my hometown.
They were gone by that point for me.
No, not for me. So there was still Blockbuster.
Lucky.
Yeah, lucky. This is the memory, only memories now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I immediately went to Blockbuster. I rented the game, and then I played it for one day, and I was just like instantly sold. And then I bought the full game while I still had it rented. Like,
wow.
I was renting it, and then I went and bought the full game. I was like, this is fun. Like,
That's excitement right there.
and then, I don't know, I just kind of like went off from there. I was like, yeah, this is for me. Like, this is what I'm going to do now.
So you had a premonition at something during the night. You didn't
Yeah,
have
it
a
was like
friend
an
that
act of
recommended-
God or something like that. It was
Yeah.
just like Street Fighter, play it, you know?
I don't think I'll be able to hear that kind of answer from anybody else. When I answered that same question, it was, I had a friend who sent me a video of Evo Moment 37 or something like. I had brothers, we competed, multiplayer games are the only ones we cared about. Never have I heard. I just wanted to do it one morning.
Yeah, just randomly.
Woke up and did it.
Randomly. And I had like played other fighting games a little bit. Like I had played, when I was growing up, I played a little Soul Calibur. I liked it. Like I had always enjoyed it. Like I played Smash Brothers. stuff like that. But
And that was fun?
it was fun to me, yeah. But I don't think I ever really played 2D fighters.
Okay.
And so it was the first time I played a 2D fighter, I think. And I think that's what probably hooked me, was like, I really loved the 2D fighter. Like the 3D fighters I had played and they were fun, but like the 2D fighter was like, oh, this is, like, I really like this.
The 2D has an isolating effect that also separates it from other kinds of video games we've played. That's why I also only play 2D fighters, because if I wanted 3D, I could play all the other games, right? I mean, that's a very simplistic reason, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
The simplification of just two directions, that's it, horizontal. That kind of makes it like approachable, but intriguing too, you know?
Yeah.
Not the level of intrigue where I would like wake up one morning and decide to like, look it up.
Just decide to do it. I don't know.
You must have seen like a commercial or something.
I don't know, man. I know. I literally had remembered like old Street Fighters, because I had like seen like on, you know, you just see like everyone knows what Street Fighter is.
Yeah.
And so I immediately thought, I was like, I want to play Street Fighter, but I don't know what's the current one, so I just looked it up. And,
yeah, Street Fighter is pretty lucky to have that kind of reputation.
Yeah.
Where we grow up seeing shows that reference it. Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, like I think Family Guy referenced it a lot.
Of course.
And I think maybe that's part of the reason like how I knew about it, because like Family Guy was always talking about it.
They have a real Honda Cento scene in Family Guy.
Yeah, that was a good one. I know which one you're talking about.
You know, we're now basically attributing your Street Fighter life and success to Family Guy.
Yep.
So
shout out to Family Guy. Shout out to Seth MacFarlane. You know.
Yeah.
He's the real one.
That's powerful.
Yep.
So, it's 2013 or so now, and you've developed an interest. Who can you play with once you get the game?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So I got the game and I'm just playing against like AI. You know what I mean?
Hardest.
So, yeah, hard mode AI. So,
Unlocking.
you know.
Did you have to unlock character? Oh no, it was probably past vanilla.
In Street Fighter 4?
You had to unlock in vanilla.
I think you had to beat story mode to unlock Seth, right?
Yeah, in vanilla.
No, I bought it when it was already probably super. I bought it when super.
There might have still been an unlockable character, but I don't know.
I think it was Seth. I don't know. But yeah, I was playing against AI, and then eventually you kind of get bored of that. So I invited my friend Dan over, who lived right down the street, and we started playing it. And so I started playing with him, and then like it was fun. But like I could tell he didn't like it as much as I liked it. Okay. Like he liked it very casually. And so, but I was like really liking it. I was like, I want to just do this all day, all night.
Okay.
And so I started playing online, as you do.
Rollback netcode.
Rollback netcode.
Not existing.
Yeah.
All delay based.
I feel like that's how most of us start, is online.
Delay based netcode, yeah.
Well, no, like just playing online. You hear a lot of stories of like people start because like they started playing online. Like
me too.
Yeah, that's
with MK9 awful online, and I didn't mind. I thought it was cutting edge technology, honestly, to even be able to play a fighting game.
Yeah,
online.
like it gives you people to play with. You know, when you don't have people. Like I always said, like I genuinely don't think there was anybody in my hometown that played. Now I later found out that there was, which is a different story. But yeah, but there was basically nobody that I knew that played the game. So I was like, all right, I'll just play online. And so that's kind of how I got into it more seriously, and I just really got addicted to it. And like I was like, oh, I want to improve. Like I want to learn how to do FADC into Ultra.
With every character.
I want to do like Ryu, Shoryuken, FADC, dash forward, Ultra. And I was when the first time you hit that online, you're just like,
oh my god.
It's amazing.
You see Daigo do it, and you can do it now, and you're a god.
Exactly. And then that was around the point where it's like, okay, I'm hitting Ryu FADC Ultra online, and now I'm just like, you know what? And then like I'm starting to like look up better players. I'm like, you know what? I want one of those fight sticks. So then I buy a fight stick, and then I'm just like, now you're done at that point. You're just hooked. You know,
I went through that same cycle up to the fight stick, and then found that I couldn't play stick, and so now I still have a Mad Catz TE for the PS3. Just not really seeing use outside of like my younger brother just randomly playing other games with it, like arcade style games. So it still got use, but I just stuck with pad, unfortunately. Because buying a stick, that's kind of like a rite of passage in so much early FGC stories. That's kind of a part of the lineage. And once you like have the stick, it gives you this confidence to like, I don't know, show up at a local, which then naturally brings us to the question, this is probably quite a few years down the line, but through what avenue did you find out that you could play locally at gatherings dedicated just to fighting games?
Yeah, so this happened probably, I would say, maybe 2 years after I had started playing. So I was just playing online, and I was just like, you know what, I still really like this. And like, my thing was like, I was always watching tournaments. Like I would always go on and like, I would watch Final Round, and like, I remember watching like, you know, bionic arm, and I was just like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And like I was just always watching tournaments, and I was seeing these people like get together and compete, and I was just like, that is really cool.
Yep.
Like I wish I could do that. And you know, so then at that point I just went on the old Google and I looked up you know, Massachusetts fighting game community, and then it did link me to Game Underground in Framingham, I think, at the time. This was the old Game Underground. So that's where I looked that up, and then I found Game Underground. And then I don't think I actually went there for like probably another till like 5 or 6 months after I found it.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know, like I was a little kid, you know, like I'm
Yeah.
like 14 years old.
Yep.
And I'm just like, you know, like, I don't know, it's just weird. Like, what am I gonna do? Just show up, you know?
As it's been a kind of a theme of your interview so far, you would have been showing up alone.
Yeah.
Because you're doing everything yourself, whether it's looking it up, going and getting the game, becoming interested in the game one morning.
Yeah.
It's all just on your own.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't doing it with another person, so
Yeah.
it was a little awkward. I was too young to drive.
Yeah.
So I was like, I would have had to have my mom drive me.
And Uber and Lyft didn't exist.
Uber and Lyft didn't exist.
It was painful asking parents to drop you off at a fighting game local. They're like, are these old men trustworthy? What can you do?
No, and I didn't know. I was like,
Yeah.
what am I getting into? So it was actually a really funny story. Lucky D loves this story. So I actually one day did get the confidence. I was like, all right, Mom, like, I really want to do this. Can you drive me there? And she's like, yes. She's like, if you like it, I'll drive you. So I was like, thanks, Mom, you're the best. So she drives me to Game Underground, and I show up, and the entire place is flooded in water. I'm kid you not. There is nobody there. I walk in, the entire place is flooded in water. And so I walk in and I'm just like, huh, like this isn't what it's supposed to be, huh? And so like I find Jamie, who owns Game Underground, and he's just like, hey, what are you doing here? Event's canceled. I was like, oh, I didn't know. This is my first time.
Canceled
He's like,
due
oh.
to the biblical flood?
Well, no, like this was the day they have the fight nights, and I knew that they had the fight nights on Fridays, or I think it was Fridays at the time.
Yeah.
I knew that they had the fight nights this day. I didn't follow like any Twitter or whatever. I don't know if they had that, but like I knew this was the day they did it, and I knew the time they did it. So I showed up at the right day and the right time, but I don't think I was part of the NEFGC like Facebook group or anything like that.
Right.
So I didn't get those updates that, hey guys, event's off. There's a flood. So I showed up and there's water everywhere. And then like there's nobody but Jamie. I was like, hey, I'm here to play like fighting games.
Like fighting games?
Yeah, I was like, I'm here to play like Street Fighter. And he's just like, yeah, sorry, like we're having like some water issues as you can see, and we canceled the event. And he's like, sorry about that. And I was like, it's okay. And then out of the back room, here comes Lucky D walking back. He's like, hey, like who are you? And I was like, oh hey, like I'm Burkish or Nick or whatever. And I was like, I thought I was gonna play fighting games. He's like, well, let's play fighting games. So Lucky D like threw out all the water everywhere. He created a setup, and me and him just sat down and played. And it was
roll
just,
up your pants first
yeah.
before playing?
And yeah, so it was just me and Lucky D and Jamie in the entire building, and I just sat down and played Lucky D for probably like an hour. And it was a lot of fun, and it was really like easygoing. Dan was like really nice, and it was fun, and he was like impressed. Actually, like at the time, like I wasn't terrible. Like I knew combos and stuff. Like I knew my full combos.
Yeah, and when you're playing alone, online, you become a trials mode monster. I'm sure that you were, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the only in-game resources for you to like learn through the game. Yeah. And also, I mean, it sounded like you were just playing online characters, like competing, but still just mostly matchmaking for fun,
Yeah, it was for fun, like to improve. Like I never really had that like competitive drive in me. It was just for fun. Like I enjoyed it. And yeah, so then I met up in like Lucky D. He was like so nice, and like I had a really good time. So then he was like, yeah, like come back next week when we're not covered in water.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so like I think like at that age, like I was so young that like social pressures are more prevalent. I think maybe at that age that I was worried about like not having anyone to talk to or anything like that. So just knowing that I had Dan there was really helpful. So that way when it became the next week and there was a room packed with people, I was like, hey, like at least I know Dan. And like, yeah, and then I showed up the next week and I only really talked to Dan at first, and it was a little awkward. But then you talk to more people, and like I made a couple more friends, and then I competed, and then I was like absolutely like just hooked. I was like, this is what I'm doing now. I'm showing up every week, and I'm gonna win one event. Like that was like I walked in, I was like, one of these days I'll win one of these.
One, huh?
Yeah. Well, that was my goal at the time. I was like, I'll
yeah.
win one of these weeklies, because that was the time I went 0-2 every week. So
Yep.
at that time I was like, eventually I'll win one of these.
That's a rite of passage. That's the ritual. And speaking of ritual, local tournament organizers like Dan are so good at picking up new people. He's developed a craft to be as friendly as possible. He'll introduce you to different types of characters that he knows how to play at a level that doesn't just assault you and make you nervous about how bad you are or whatever when you start, you know? Yeah. He'll give you like all kinds of experience. And that's a kind of trend that I've noticed throughout most of the local tournament organizers I've met. Nunch's had a similar story. He shared with me so many like DMs that Dan had sent him to get him to keep coming out and learning when he was starting up. If you remember when he was a Nikali player, like way back.
I only knew him when he was I think he was a birdie player when I met him.
I mean, this is a slight sidetrack, but I told him to play birdie because he could anti-air with one button. And that instantly fixed everything.
Hooked him?
Yeah. He just anti-air.
He's like, oh, that's easy. Me and my Hearthstone brain, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Crouch medium punch.
Yeah.
One drop, one mana, instantly does everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, anti-airing's amazing. And that's something that I think, even to this day, like you anti-air somebody in tournament optimally, you feel great.
It feels good. You're just like, yeah, get the hell out of the sky.
Yeah, and for you, it probably started with just DP, but now you're doing that Urien Crouch Fierce full combo, light headbutt whiff into another relaunch. Yeah.
That's that good dance error.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels good to land that.
That would take about 4 more years from where our story currently is at Game Underground. So thankfully, your mother had already dropped you off and left before she saw the water in the flooded place, right?
No, so she just hung out for the hour. I mean,
really?
Well, the thing is like, I mean, she originally had to be in the area for the whole thing, you know, because, you know, I didn't have a driver's license. I was too young to drive.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
She just hung out for an hour while I played Dan. And then in the future, when I would go to tournaments, she would drive me, hang out, and usually she'd just like go to stores in the area, stuff like that.
It's good to see that the impression wasn't ruined by the flooded location.
Yeah. No, like I said, I almost think it was the best thing because one of the biggest worries I had was like the social part of it.
Yeah.
And it actually made it so much easier that it was just me and Lucky D, and it was just me and him.
That's
I think
really
that actually
powerful.
made it. I think it actually made it better for me. So that way, when I came back the next week, I knew I at least knew someone that I was like, okay, this is like a nice guy that I can talk to, you know.
Yeah. And he'll get you games with other people and introduce you.
Yeah.
You probably had the most fortunate experience thanks to that water trouble.
Yeah, I always say like I owe like any success I have in the fighting game community to Lucky D, because without him, like I might not have shown up the next week. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I might have just been like, this place is weird, I'm not doing this again.
I know a lot of other people who have tried to enter a scene on their own. They see everybody else is already fully initiated. You know, they speak the body language. They have the head tilts. They're using terminology that straight up doesn't make sense if you're new.
Yeah.
And it can make joining actually be like daunting, intimidating. Because at some point, like, the metaphor that I like to use is, you know how people have discomfort asking, can I get next to get games?
Yeah, I notice people do have that.
They have discomfort even to this day, even some initiated people. But that's a line that is essential for people to A, play and like have their time be worth it, and B, get to know each other.
Yeah.
And first going to a local is the ultimate can I get next.
Right. No, for sure. No, I actually totally agree. But I think like nowadays when I see people have that issue and they're just like, oh, I don't want to like bug them. Like I don't want to call next. Like I don't want to like. Sometimes people feel like they're like wasting the other person's time.
Right. I'm not as good.
Yeah, I'm not as good. Which I feel like I used to like feel that way when I was like, I don't know if I want to call next. Whereas now I'm just like, can I get next? You know, it's like that's all you got to do. You know, people, no one's gonna say no. So it's like if you really want to get better and you just call next, they'll just let you in.
Yeah.
If you want to get better, that's how you get better. You know, you got to call next.
Yeah. And thankfully, most of the FGC public is fully on our side in this regard. Though there has been drama in the past over, could you guys get off the setup so we can play a money match? If you remember that blow.
That's happened to me before, yeah.
Oh, it has?
Yeah, but I usually just allow them to. I'm just like, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't care.
It'll probably be fun to watch.
Yeah, let's take a money match? Sure. I don't really care.
I'm with it. That's cool.
Yeah.
High priority.
It depends. It depends where you are at what time.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So, Lucky D brings you into the scene at the first level of initiation. At what point do you first start striking up new friends that then can help you grind and get better?
Yeah, so that was actually pretty quick. I met, so there's a guy named, so he's back now. His name's Darren, and he goes by Spade to Great.
Yeah, I've seen him around recently.
Yep, so he's recently come back to the scene. And I don't know what camera to look at. Which camera should I be looking at? Doesn't matter.
Your primary camera's over here, but be natural.
Literally, just keep looking at Matt. So
Okay,
I gotta-
just keep
Yeah.
looking at
Like,
me.
The island's just set up for
you
you and
never
I.
have to look at a camera.
Okay.
You literally just talk to man.
Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah. So there was this guy named Spade the Great. So at the time in Street Fighter 4, I had entered. I think this was the first bracket I had ever entered. So it was the week after the flood, and so I entered a bracket. I did end up going 0-2, but oh no, I think I actually did win a couple matches that time, and then I kept going 0-2 after.
Good.
But
Thank God.
so
You're supposed to go into it.
so the first guy I played was Darren, who was Spade the Great, and he just absolutely demolished me. And he was an able player. And then
I don't blame him.
yeah, so step kick, boom, dash. It was the stupidest move ever made. But yeah, but then afterwards I talked to him. I was just like, hey man, like you were really good. Like we should play something. He's like, yeah. And so like we just kept talking, and like he was just like a super nice guy, and like we just became cool. And then he was hanging out with two other people. So there's a guy named John J-Man. He used to be really big into the scene. He doesn't show up anymore. I haven't seen that guy in forever. But he used to show up every week. He was like a Cammy player. Yes, shout out to John. I miss John. Yeah. Yeah. And then there was another person named Tony, who was from New York and was a really good Viper player. So it was those three people were kind of hanging out, and then Darren and I became cool. Then I became cool with John and Tony, and then us four kind of were like cool with each other, and we started like playing online and a lot and stuff like that. So pretty quick, it was like finding new people to play with was pretty quick.
Good.
Yeah.
Because that's something that you need in order to develop into the competitive monster that you eventually became. And the exact individuals in the group of training kind of can change with time. Some come in, some come back out. But I know for a fact that like when I see you at locals, you were accompanied by one or two other friends minimum shooting the shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's such a social space. So Game Underground Weeklies, 0-2, hanging out. At what point do you have your first proud moment in that era on in-game? I know you beat somebody at first, but is there anything that sticks out in your mind as a memory where you said, like, I'm godlike? Even if it's temporary, and even if by measures now it was not godlike.
Yeah. I think the first moment I was really proud of myself in Street Fighter 4 was when one time Justin Wong visited, and I got to winner. So this was a huge tournament, and I ended up in winners finals against Justin. And then I immediately lost, and then lost in losers finals. But I mean, just like being there in winners finals against Justin, and I think that was one of the first times I got paid out.
Yeah.
Because I got to winners finals against Justin. Top 3 gets paid out.
Yep.
And so I made like $30.
Nice.
And I was just like, hey,
You
like,
can
look at me.
enter for like 6 more weeks if it's $5 entry.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that great?
And so like I think at that time like I had made money, like I gained a profit, and like I made it to winners finals against Justin Wong. Like at that moment I was like, hey, like I'm doing the thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. That feels so righteous.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, here I am, you know?
You could look back on that challenge bracket and be like, yeah, that one. I mean, ignore the 303.
Yeah,
out
ignore me losing. So
Yeah.
because I never won a single Street Fighter 4 tournament ever. I never won. Because I'm trying to think how long I played the game for in tournament. I mean, it was at least 2 years. But I never won a single tournament the whole time.
That fact is powerful because that knowledge definitely can allow people to understand that you must have been hungry going into Street Fighter V.
Yeah.
So it's February 2016. Street Fighter V's launch is approaching. You haven't won a Street Fighter 4 tournament. That doesn't give you a chip on your shoulder necessarily. You know, it's the first game you competed in.
Yeah.
But are you ready when 5 comes out to like jump right in at full force?
Yeah, like I think at this point, like it was past like, because you know when I first started playing 4, it was already people had been playing 4 for so many years.
Yeah.
You know, like there were so many things in 4 I didn't really understand, even at the tail end of it, that there were strategies that people were doing.
Yeah.
But when 5 came out, it was fresh, and I've already been in the community for years at this point. You know, I'm known as like a solid enough player. You know, I can get top 3 at the very least. I made it to grand finals a couple times, never won.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I know I'm like pretty good now. So now it's time to like really go for it and like really, like I really want to win now. You know. So I think I took 5 way more seriously than I took 4.
Did you play any of the betas? Like you were.
I did, yeah. Well, everyone was playing the beta.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, everyone was doing it. I mean, I especially remember Kevin Tech. was such a beta monster.
I was a beta monster too.
Were
Beta
you?
2 Mika came out for
God.
Beta 2, and I was so psyched.
I can't imagine how cheap she was.
Well, if you remember Season 1 Mika,
She was insane.
Yeah, well, Beta Mika was even more untamed.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of people think that Season 1 Mika might have been the best character in the game. Maybe.
She and Chun, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Crouch Heavy Punch being +1. Why? She already has 2 3-frames. She had a huge stand light 3-frame back then. Easy light confirm.
Yeah.
Things were different. But one thing that I know is different about you and the launch of Street Fighter V is that it took 7 months for Urien to be released. The last character of Season 1 for which you have a reputation. You've developed respect. Something of a character loyalist. When you hear Burkish, you imagine you'll see Urien or Wesker Urien on the screen. How were you playing Street Fighter V before Urien's release, and did you plan to play him at the outset?
Oh yeah, so I've been a Urien fanboy ever since I first saw the character. So like when I first started playing 4 and I fell in love with the fighting game community, I immediately was like what other games are there? You know, so that's why like I was also a Marvel player. I played a lot of games.
The popular stuff.
Yeah, I played everything.
Whatever gets you games, you played back then.
That's why like when people watch me play Marvel and I can do all the Dante combos, they're like, Burkish, you can do this? It's like, yeah, of course I can do this. I'm like, you know what I mean? I can do anything anyone can do. But it's like, yeah, so like, you know, so I started looking at other games, and that was around the time that during Street Fighter 4 when Third Strike Online Edition came out.
I remember that.
And I was just like, this Urien character is so cool. I loved the mirror. I was like, Aegis is the coolest move I've ever seen. I was like, this is just the coolest thing. So I was just like, yeah, I loved the character. Like, I didn't want to play any other character. And I was like, I need this character in 5. I was like, I need this guy. Like, it would be amazing. So like, ever since 5 came out, I was like, when is Urien? Like, I want Urien.
So who did you have to suffer with until Urien?
So before Urien, I started off with Ryu.
Okay.
And going in, I was like, I think I'm gonna play Ryu, because I was like, you know what? In 4, I feel like I lacked fundamentals, and I was relying a lot on just like offense and stuff. So I was like, you know
combos.
what? Yeah, I was like, you know what? I just kind of went in on people and just kind of went ham. So I was like, I want to play a more grounded, solid character. So I was like, I'll play Ryu, and Ryu is the first character that I ever won a tournament with.
In 5?
In 5, yeah.
Cool.
So I played Ryu, and like, to be honest, the first tournament I won came pretty quick. Like there were, I think it didn't take much longer than like a month for me to win my first tournament. I don't exactly remember, but it was pretty quick. And that was a really fun like experience. I still remember that moment. I was just like going crazy. I was like throwing chairs. I was like, because like, it took me years. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I figured I'd win one of these things eventually, but it took me like years to do it. So
you talked about how the feeling of doing Shoryuken F80C Ultra in Street Fighter 4 is what gave you the most immense feeling of power and gratification. And so then for years later to win your first tournament with Ryu again, not that you were a Ryu loyalist, but there's something about winning tournaments with Ryu that makes you feel superior.
Yeah, you're
because
just
that
like,
is the fighting game character.
He's like, I'm the main character, you know? It's like, it just felt right, you know? I was like, I want to play with a character that's just like somewhat honest, you know? And so I remember I beat Doug Cheeseburger. And
he was playing Birdie
He was playing Birdie, yep.
Yeah.
So I beat him in grand finals. And this was at the time when there was like a ton of people showing up. So the prize pools were really big at this time.
Yeah.
Because I just have this thing, remember, I came home, nobody but my sister was home, so I just showed her like, it was $200 was my payout.
Fat sack of cash.
Yeah, so I was just like, Jackie, look what I did. and she's
know,
like, what?
The best
Did you go to Vegas? Like, no.
Fighting game community payouts are so great because the bills are handed to you in like 10s and 5s.
Yes,
and so there's tons of them.
Yeah.
And you get a fat wallet after.
Yeah. So yeah, like it was a really fun experience. And then like after that, you can't stop, you know? And so like, and then eventually like, I picked up Karen because I thought Karen, because I was a Yang player in 4. He was my main.
Yeah.
And I thought Karen fit me more than Ryu eventually. And I don't remember if Ryu got nerfed or not, but I ended up switching to Karen. And then
well, there were some other Yang players playing Karen as well. Mago, for example.
Yeah. Yep, Mago was playing Karen. I know Shine was playing Karen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot, the Yang players seemed to gravitate more towards Karen, so I kind of went that way too. And so I did pretty well with Karen. Karen, before Urien came out, was the character I won the most with.
Okay.
So like I won a tournament with Ryu, but then like I won that one tournament and I wasn't like consistent. I wasn't consistently winning.
Yeah.
But then when Karen came out, I was more consistently winning.
Okay.
With Karen. Like I mean, there was a time where I won like 2 or 3 in like a row.
That's some lore that I'm not privy to at all. I had no idea that you even had a Karen at all.
Yeah. So she was like the first character I was like winning more with, and then I realized I was like, oh okay. Like
who were some of the rivals at the time outside of Cheeseburger, who I know for a fact you would play Ryu on and jump light kick the hell out of Birdie entire. Remember Ryu jump light kick?
Oh, it was busted.
It's so
Yeah,
busted.
it was so busted.
I was just imagining that exchange in my head while you talked about it.
Yeah,
He was
it's
probably
wild.
so
Like
mad.
now I'm trying to think back. Like yeah, like Doug Cheeseburger was one of the biggest guys in the beginning. Kevin Tech was one of the biggest guys in the beginning.
And they were coming from, I mean, Cheeseburger's from Connecticut, right?
Yes, yes,
So it was a long way.
yeah.
At this point, had BP started up yet, or was it still GE?
No.
Yeah, BP was like 2 years later, right?
BP was a while later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think. Like Zaf was good, but he's nowhere where he was now. Where he is now. He wasn't looked at as like the top threat at the time for sure. It took Zaf a long time to get used to the game, I think.
He still talks about how he doesn't know anything about it. He's that philosophical.
Yeah. No, I mean Zap's really good, but yeah, like it's hard. Like there was this guy named FH. He was a Bison player. He was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like I'm trying to remember. Like it's hard. It's really hard to remember, to be honest. But like a lot of the people that are still around today were still big players back then too.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good to have that kind of consistency of performance over the 5 years that the game's been around.
Yeah, it's been so long, man.
4
It's
and 5.
crazy. It's really crazy.
But the storylines haven't stopped.
Yeah.
And they won't until a new game comes out, but even then they'll still exist. They'll be on video. Big jumping point here. Fast forward about a year. It's NEC 2017.
Flash forward, yeah.
Yeah, flash forward. I mean, 2016, 2017 doesn't sound that big, but in terms of thematic content, it's going to be huge because this is the first major tournament that you've won. And I know that you don't travel often to majors. I remember helping secure you travel.
Yes,
to
I was
this
in the
event.
car with you. It was a great car ride. It was
Yeah.
fun.
I sent out my girlfriend to visit me at NEC along with Draken, Burkish, and was Nooches there too?
It was, yeah. It was
Okay,
us
yeah,
three,
so that's
I
a
think.
powerful ride.
It was a
right there.
fun ride. It was a really good ride.
Very powerful ride in game too, because I delivered my scene's losses in that car ride. Jug was our best player at the time, and he made it all the way up to losers semis. He was put in losers by Draken in pools, and then he had to fight you to move on to losers finals, and you beat him. So I can talk about that here. You know, it'll go public in the interview, but I haven't really told Jug that.
Jug,
But
he's a good guy.
I'm happier delivering you to a major victory than I am delivering Jug a loss. You know, that's well worth it.
You know, it's funny. Like I talked to a lot of people about that, and a lot of people think that me versus Jug was basically grand finals. That whoever won now was just gonna go.
You were both on fire.
Yeah.
I shout outs to Draken for preventing the real grand finals.
Yeah.
But Rob TV did get the reset on you, I remember.
No, I was in
Or
losers.
sorry, you were in losers.
I lost to Henry Sen.
Henry Sen. Interesting. Was that?
So that's
early?
why now every time I see Henry Sen, he always he'll like never forget it. Because I've only played him once, and then every time I see him, he's always trying to give me tips like I just bought the game.
That's funny.
It's like, yes, Henry, have been in the scene longer than me. I agree with that.
Henry has that relationship with anybody below the age of 30. It's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, yeah, he probably does that with everybody.
Yeah. So, I remember that Rob TV was like real hyped that tournament.
He was
had-
super hyped.
Yeah, he had his jersey on. He like popped off after being Chris G and the rest. I think the first set of grand finals was way closer to you losing, and then did you 3-0 in the second set?
Yeah, so I think the first, I think it was a 3-1, 3-0.
3-1, 3-0. Wow.
But the games were close.
Okay.
In the first set.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, had you already played on any stage that large before at that point?
No, not that large. But I really had just like gotten control because like this wasn't the first tournament I had traveled to. Like back in the 4 days, you know, like I had traveled to a couple tournaments during 4. You know, like I had went to the first tournament I ever went to was Summer Jam, and like I said, I was so young that, you know, Lucky D called my mom to get permission to take me there. So like I was probably like 15 or 16, but then like Lucky D literally had to talk to my mom and like tell her that it's like, yeah, it's okay if, you know, I get in the car with this guy and travel to Philadelphia and like hang out
everybody
with,
does it. Don't worry.
you know.
I remember my parents would ask for the numbers of the drivers and stuff.
Yeah, and for reference, this was the Summer Jam that Sonic Fox beat Perfect Legend 13-0.
Oh.
That was my first tournament. So that was the first.
Did you
tournament.
get to see that
I watched
live?
it live. Yeah, I saw it.
What an experience.
I was like, what?
You got a great
No, because I remember
prototype.
watching Sonic Fox 10-0. I'm like, dang. And then they just kept playing, and I was like, what is he doing? And then he got him another 3 times.
Well, then it became a reality show, you know?
Yeah.
Spooky out of the grace of his heart. Just
Yeah.
cut the stream.
Oh, and true story. That's the first time I met Bunch. Was at that summer jam. He doesn't remember me, probably from that time. But I hadn't met Bunch that time. He was a Balrog player before, and yeah, it was just like hanging out.
He hadn't lived in Boston at that point.
No, because I hadn't. Like I wasn't. Yeah, like I don't know Bunch like I know him now. But like yeah, like that was the first time I had ever seen Bunch. And I had already obviously I'd been in the scene for a couple of years, so I knew like Zaf. I knew everybody in the Boston scene at that point.
You know, just by coincidence, you're mentioning so many names of people we've interviewed already, so we'll get to draw connecting threads and get this nice character arc story thing going.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I bet everyone's gonna be talking about Lucky D. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you not? I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah. So that was my like first tournament experience. So I have had the experience of being in tournaments. I've been competing for a lot of years, and I in the beginning had huge issues with tournament nerves, like really bad. I got really bad tournament nerves, and especially when you travel to like a serious tournament. So I think it had been the point where I'd been in the scene for maybe 2-3 years or whatever, and it got to the point where I was like, I need to figure out a way to deal with these nerves. So I don't know. I just kind of practiced. Like I really just practiced. Like I made sure I got like good breathing. Like I think the deep breathing like would help me a lot. Sometimes I even still do it. Like just taking a really deep breath, like you know, just like letting it go for a while, like stuff like that. Just like being focused and like being in the moment. You know, like I always say, like me during NEC was the best I had ever played in my entire life.
Really?
Like I was just so focused. And then after NEC, like I was almost like, how do I play as good as I was playing that day? I was like, I don't even understand how I was playing so good that day. Like I would watch it and I would almost like, it would feel like I was watching like a different player. I was like, this is not, I'm playing so much better than I usually do.
Yeah, it just happens sometimes. Things seem to click. And recapturing that magic, that can kind of put a lot of pressure on you looking back at your past self. Even if it was just 2 weeks ago, sometimes it feels like days if you were playing. Sorry, it can feel like years if you were playing that well. So like being able to kind of, you have to take losses with a grain of salt, but you also have to take victories with that grain of salt too, you know?
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to say about the NEC experience?
Oh, it was insane. Like it was crazy for me. Like after I won, like it felt like I was dreaming. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I cannot believe this. Like I literally can't. Like I was on a stage, there was an entire crowd of people, and then there was like first place Burkish. They handed me a trophy and put my arm in there. I'm like, what is happening? Like what is going on?
That is funny. They hoist your arm up for you.
Yeah.
That almost makes it feel even more dreamlike. Like you win using all of your agency and decision making and actions, and then after that, the rest is on everybody else to celebrate you.
Yeah.
They'll raise your arm for you.
I think I just didn't believe it. Like I was still like I said, I was so focused during the tournament that like I didn't really have a huge reaction. The biggest reaction I had all tournament was when I beat Jug, actually. When I beat Jug, I actually like stood up and screamed. And I was like,
I was there, I remember.
Yeah, like when I beat Rob TV, I didn't. Actually, no, I like kind of like slammed my stick and then like I went and like hugged Alex Smith or something. But like, yeah, like.
What a great major for you to win, by the way, having so many traveling members of your scene there too.
Yeah.
Backing you up.
It was so awesome, like having Alex there, Draken was there.
Yep.
I still remember like because like we didn't originally plan to stay that long, because yeah, like we just didn't originally plan to stay that long, so we didn't have travel preparations for me winning the tournament basically. And so me and Draken ended up getting like a bus back, and I still remember going to the bathroom and I had my tournament winnings, which was like a lot of money. And so like I handed it to Draken and I was like, Draken, I'm going to the bathroom. Watch this with your life. I'll be right back.
They handed you a check.
It was like, well, no, it was cash.
Cash.
It was like
Oh my
straight
God.
cash. This is like $1,500.
Even better.
Yeah. So I was just like walking around with this in my backpack, like.
It
You know
feels
what I mean?
illegal
Yeah.
to have that much money.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like
don't know
I
the
had never
crime.
had that much money at the one time before. So
It feels like robbery, but the only robbery you committed was like season 2 Urien V-Trigger stuff.
Yeah, this was when Urien was the best character in the game. Without a doubt, Urien was busted. He was absolutely busted.
Yeah, it was pretty different in season 2.
Oh yeah.
Minimal
If we had this Urien now, I would have won Capcom Cup. I'm not even kidding. Like, he is so busted, or he was so busted.
I mean, there's a couple things. I think a lot of other characters have gotten so strong too, and like system changes would also kind of work to even things out.
Yeah.
That said, EX shoulder being neutral was pretty hilarious. That was pretty.
It was 0 on block.
Yeah.
How about this? His crouching medium kick was +2 on block.
Right. Yeah. Let me just quickly tap you with that crouch light punch. Even the 3-framers get messed up by that.
And this is when V-triggers had no scaling. So crouch medium kick and a V-trigger, half your health gone.
And corner.
And corner.
Yeah.
And you still got another mirror. He was a one mix-up kill character.
I used When I was salty against Urien back then, I was playing Mika, so I had Nadeshko V-trigger, and it was like, why does Urien get 6 Nadeshkos? 2 mirrors, 3 bounces each? Are you serious?
Yeah, it was busted. It's still good. It's still really good.
Yeah, I love the momentum switch that it creates. Speaking of Urien, what does Urien enable you to do that other characters don't?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I always try to think, I was like, is there any other character I can play? And like, I honestly think like I was gonna play Urien no matter what. I also happen to think that he fits me better than another character, like out of pure luck. Like, he just happens to fit me. I liked him more for like aesthetic reasons, and then he just also happens to fit me better than any other character. So it's kind of like a perfect match, I guess. But I think the thing I like about Urien the most is how he's able to. I always call him kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I really like characters like that. That like I don't have to feel committed to one style. Where Urien has like a bit of everything, but he doesn't excel at any of it. Or you know what I would call him? I'd call him Jack of all trades, Master of Aegis, because that's the only thing he's like.
That thing excels.
That's the only thing he's like has that's like really he excels at is the V trigger.
Yep.
Yeah, like I really like that. Like I like that he has a fireball, so like I can, you know, back in the days I played Ryu, like I know fireball game and stuff like that.
You had a tricky fireball game with Urien too. Charging it, delaying at different speeds.
Yeah.
3 different EX versions.
Yeah, like it's a cool fireball. It's a pretty good move, you know. Like I like that he has good range in his normals. So, like I can play pokes, but then like he also has, you know, pretty good offense, and he has like some solid defense. Like he has all of these different options, and you're able to just like mix up between them and really confuse the other guy. And I really like doing that. Like I really like just like mixing up my playstyles and being able to tailor my playstyle specifically to that person. Whereas like Dalsum is always going to be Dalsum. He's always going to be full screen press and stand medium kick.
And then also having 6 set play once they knock you down.
Yeah, you know.
So outside of being better, what distinguishes you from other Uriens? And I'm not going to make you compare yourself to like Nemo, the guild player. You know?
I think I'm much more patient than other Uriens.
Yeah, when I think of other Uriens, I think of 16 frame forward dash.
Yeah.
I think of Quarrel Punch over and over again, regardless of how negative it is.
Yeah, I watch a lot of other Uriens. They do a lot of EX headbutts. Like if you watch my Urien particularly, I rarely EX headbutt. Even if I'm getting rushed the hell down, like I don't do it that much.
Yeah, that's another tricky thing that I noticed playing you actually. You're more likely to EX headbutt when you have Wake Up Aegis at the ready, because people are worried about Wake Up Aegis.
Yep.
So now your likelihood of success just goes higher.
Yeah.
Because you have 2 different options.
Mm-hmm. And I like to EX headbutt less on Wake Up and more like randomly, like during maybe a block string.
Block string or delayed headbutt.
Delay it. Like, you know, just be a jerk about it, you know. So I would say like probably patience is probably the main difference. I mean, I know all like the setups. You know, like I have all the execution, you know. So yeah, I think just mainly like patience, and then I think I have a better, maybe just a better game plan than a lot of the other guys. Like I think I'm better at strategy than a lot of the other Uriens.
And I think yours is less stubborn. And if you're less stubborn about what you'd like to do, you can be more freeform in how you can change based upon an opponent.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like, yeah, like I'm not afraid to, if I have to play like a, you know, like a zone or the entire match, I'll do that. Or if I have to just go crazy, I'll do that. That's what I like about Urien is like you can pick and choose these different play styles.
And you have the V skill 2 choice now to benefit.
Oh, which is so good.
Yeah.
Yep, I was watching, like I was just in recently one of the Reddit Street Fighter tournaments, and that V skill literally won me one of my matches because it was like the time was ticking down, and we were full screen away from each other, and I just V skilled fireball, and then you can just walk in, and it just let me all the way in, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Not to mention the chip too.
The chip's good, yeah. It's really strong. It's a strong V skill for sure.
So you won that tournament last week, right?
Yeah.
So you're fresh off.
That wasn't last week. That was 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Online tournaments ever more important in the pandemic era that we currently find ourselves in.
Oh, the pandemic.
Yeah, it's difficult to be a competitive player right now in general, but thankfully you're no stranger to online. Done particularly well in both the CPT online tournaments and the Reddit Street Fighter Weekly series. Going forward, how do you see yourself continuing to compete? As in, is online like a very good training tool for you, specifically online tournaments, or do you kind of enter just as a whatever, I'll see what I can do thing?
You know, I think online is good training. You know, I think within a, I don't know, certain spectrum, I guess. I mean, it's like, I don't think you can be good online and that means you're good offline.
Right.
But I think good offline players also are good online. So you could be good offline if you're good online. It doesn't mean you are. But I think it's a good way, yeah, if you got no one to play with online, I mean offline, playing online, it keeps the muscle memory going. That's why I always say is like it's good muscle training. Like when you see or you throw a fireball, your reaction is boom to jump. Like it doesn't change whether that's offline or offline. What changes is maybe your success with it. Yep. You know, it's like, but the strategies are all still the same. It's just more like how it ends up is maybe a little different.
I like that statement. The strategy's the same, because you said you see the fireball and you react. Well, if you're a little further out and it's like a slower fireball, if you're trying to react to the fireball by jumping, Ryu will DP you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's got to be slightly preemptive.
Yeah.
And that won't change between online and offline. So online and offline are kind of mixing more and more each passing day. You could potentially make it to the Olympics in a 1-to-1 online qualifier. There's a Street Fighter League online qualifier that one of your old regional rivals Up to Snuff won to make it into Street Fighter League, I remember. Or did he win Wednesday Night Fights for it? I don't remember.
He won an online qualifier.
Online qualifier, yeah, that was it. So seeing that kind of linkage and these new avenues of approaching competition, does that inspire you to continue to grind harder? Are you pursuing growth on that front?
In the online front?
Online leading into offline, you know?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, it is directly affecting me. I mean, especially right now, like I'm in CSL, which is a collegiate league.
Right. And
because of like the pandemic and everything, it's now a fully online tournament. So I am trying to make sure that like I'm good online. You know, I always say that it's weird. Like I like to consider myself more of an offline player, but I do know how to switch it up when I'm playing online. Like I do like to say like the tier list is different when you're playing online. Like Laura becomes the best character in the game.
Tough matchup against Idom, huh?
Yeah. So but Urien also I think gets better online because some of his strategies that aren't that good offline suddenly become good. Like random EX Nia neutral is good now. You know, it's not that good offline. I try that offline, it doesn't work.
If there's a couple frames that skipped, EX Violence Knee is unreactable.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, now I can do this now, you know. And so I always say, like, I think Urien is strong online. I think he's strong offline too, but I think he's stronger online than he is offline. So I think it benefits me. And I think that's how part of the reason why I've been so successful in these online tournaments. And I'm able to beat these like big names. Like I've beaten Idom and Shine and Neon. Like I've beaten these guys in online tournaments, but I've never beaten them offline. I mean, I haven't really. Idom's the only one I've ever played offline, but
I see.
Yeah, but like so, I definitely think Urien becomes stronger online.
Well, that's good news for sure.
Yeah.
So moving past the online tier list, as interesting as that discussion is.
Yeah.
Do you feel any kind of pressure to uphold a reputation at this point as Burkish, as a Urien player, as someone who Boston might rely on for results or for a spot on the stage?
That's an interesting question. There have been times I've felt that way. I think the time I felt that the most was during Red Bull Conquest, where I was the only Boston player in top 8. And so I did feel pressure in that sense at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one day I definitely did. But other than that one day, generally speaking, I don't feel that way. Mainly just because I don't know, like I don't know, I feel pretty like confident in my play. So I'm not worried that I'm gonna like show up and do terrible. You know, like I don't feel like it's my responsibility to like win things for Boston.
Yeah,
know?
that's good.
But like I feel confident enough that I can do well no matter what it is, you know, in that I can at least like show that Boston is strong, which I think I have done, you know, like I just won the Street Fighter Weekly. There was like about 100 people in it, you know, so
yeah,
I think I have shown, like guys like me and Zaf, probably more than anyone else, have shown that Boston is strong. So I more feel good that I've been able to show that Boston is strong rather than feel like pressure by it, you know. I just I don't really feel that way.
Yeah, it's good to be an individual within a scene and not only being the scene, you know, and only having that thought in your head. So knowing that you kind of let your play speak for yourself, would streaming be something you're interested in going forward, to like kind of just make something out of online practice?
Yeah, a lot of people bring something like, Burkish, you should stream. I consider doing it a lot. My main thing is just like, I just don't like online,
Really?
which is the main reason why I don't like. I only play online for these online tournaments.
I see. Okay.
I got Ultimate Grandmaster, and then I was like, I quit. I hate online.
That takes some focus.
So I just generally speaking don't like it. But I would still consider doing it, just because it would be an interesting thing to do. Yeah, you know, like it would be a cool thing to do, and it's something I am considering doing in the future. It's not something that's like immediately I want to do it right now, but yeah, like in the future, it is something I'm definitely like keeping on the down low, like thinking of maybe something to do. I'm also considering maybe doing like some content creation. I used to do that a lot. Like
You did?
I used to like make videos, and a lot of them were pretty successful. Like
That's how I started too.
Oh, that's cool.
Making videos.
Yeah.
Because videos are what got me into it. So.
Yeah, like the media stuff. Yeah. Some of your videos are pretty godlike.
Nice.
But yeah, no. So yeah, so like I used to make videos, and like they usually do pretty well. Like you can still find them. They're still on my channel.
Huh.
I made a video of like Karen. I forget what it was. I think it was like Karen sweep and then into like V skill. I was like, look at this meaty. It's like the stupidest tech, and I got like 12,000 views. It's like
When a new game launches. That's
yeah, everything's cool when a new game launches.
So tonight we've illuminated your path towards becoming a top player in Boston. We've made content ourselves, the social kind of content, in addition to the technical kind of content. You know, I'm sure that Karen Sweet video is fascinating. I'll be sure to check it out. youtube.tv/Burkishman, whatever it is. Do you have any closing messages or thoughts for the people that have watched all the way through, are enamored with your personality and your story, and might just want to know a little bit more or hear something more?
Personal thoughts. I appreciate this. I appreciate you guys for having me here. I appreciate the scene, like in general. You know, I love being a part of the scene. It's one of my favorite things to do. You know, and so I appreciate everybody for keeping doing this, keeping the lights on. You know, like Lucky D, everyone at Balance Patch, all the players that show up. Like, yeah, let's keep doing this. You know, let's keep having fun. I don't know.
It's made me a lot of great friends too.
Yeah.
And tonight I know a friend better now. So thanks. Are we gonna handshake?
We're gonna do it.
Oh, pandemic. All right.
Pandemic shake.
All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, everybody. This is Burkish. I'm Monkey Business. This whole series is Beyond Frame Data. Be sure to continue watching as we keep releasing them. And thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Hurry the fuck back, be whatever the hell day it is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Happy
All right.
Leif Erikson Day.
So,
Shout out
to
Family Guy. Shout out to Seth MacFarlane, you know.
Yeah.
He's the real one.